Hi, I'm Rusty Wise with the Wise News Network, and today on Wise Wednesday we have a very special guest, Mr. Charles Brownie Sisk. And Charles is with the Cherryville New Year Shooters, and he just became the president on December 7th of 2022. So we have a very special guest. Charles is here with us today to explain a little bit about the Cherryville New Year Shooters, a little bit about the history of Cherryville, and a little bit about himself. Welcome, Charles.
Glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your history of Cherryville, like, you know, all the way from when you were born all the way up.
Well, I was born in Lincoln County, and we lived on Tot-Dellinger Road until after I was married. And I went to work for Carlton Mill. I worked for them for 26 years. And then I became part owner of the company. We did a lot of work calling on sewing factories and things like that. And sewing factories died, so we got into the screen printing business. We had a state-of-the-art screen printing. We employed about 150 people. And things happened, the imports killed us, and we had to close up.
And I believe you worked at Carlton Mill at one time?
I worked there for 26 years. I worked 20 years in Cherryville and 6 years in Salisbury.
And then I think you worked over at Mohegan Mills.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I worked at Mohegan Mills for after we closed up at our factory was in Albemarle, North Carolina, and after we closed up down there, I went to work at Mohegan, and I was a manager of the lace knitting department for about 8 years, and then I retired from there.
So how did you get started New Year shooting?
My dad took me. I used to go with him when I was very small, and then when I was 10 years old, he let me shoot. And I was not able to cock the hammer back. I just wasn't big enough. And he would cock it back for me, or else my uncle Luther Sisk would do it for me. And my dad would load the gun, and I'd walk out and put the cap on it. And after I got a little older, I wanted to put more powder in that thing. So I started loading my own gun when I got a little bit older.
So you started when you were 10?
I was 10 years old in 1948.
Wow. And now so you've been going 74 years?
74 years.
You're 84, yeah.
If I make it through this New Year's, it'll be 75.
Wow.
And there's a lot of things have happened. It's like the price of powder today, you know, it's so high. And I remember buying a keg for $3. 6 pounds.
Oh, wow.
$3 for a keg.
And caps were pennies, I guess.
I've still got some boxes at home where I bought 250 caps, and they were $5 and something.
Wow. Wow, now they're like 40.
40, yeah.
Yeah, powder's 20.
Powder, 20, yeah.
Well, I know growing up in Cherryville, so you got accustomed to the New Year shooting.
Oh, yeah.
And did they ever shoot near your home or your house? Is that how you got hooked, or is it your dad?
This is my dad. He would go, and I begged him to go, and finally he let me go with him. And in about, I'm trying to think what year it was. I guess it was back in the 80s. My son started going with us, and he went with us for about 2 or 3 years, and then he got where he wasn't able to do it. And even my wife went some, and she shot some.
Wow, I know on some of the old films we've watched, your dad's on there,
yeah.
You're on there,
yeah.
And you were very instrumental in helping me name a lot of those people from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I really appreciate you helping me with that.
Well, I was glad to do that. Some of them I could not remember their names. I could remember their faces, but I couldn't remember their names. Well,
there's a tremendous amount of people that you did recognize, yeah, and know, and we are showing that here at the exhibit. We just put up the video frame, and that's automatic. It comes on automatically. But I really appreciate the help, and you also were very instrumental on the documentary that I produced, yeah, and you named a lot of people there too. Well,
I know you noticed on a lot of them it was a lot of snow. We went a lot of years in the snow. Snow wasn't bad, but when it rains, it's terrible. It's just, you just can't keep the guns dry when it rains. But snow, you can sort of take care of them.
Are there any years that stand out more than others? I know it's, 70 so years, but I'm sure snow years is a big now.
Well,
I know you've got a story where y'all were shooting in the snow in a convertible and you was riding around with the convertible.
Well, I was going to tell you about that. My brother-in-law and I were together, and he just passed away this past week. But we had too much to drink, and it was snowing, and he had a convertible, so we let the top down. And
to get some fresh air.
To get some fresh air. And it was real funny that my dad was uptown. He had already quit shooting. And he went home and told my mother that there's a bunch of drunks riding around in a convertible, and she said, well, it's your son.
Now, in some of these old films, we noticed your dad was using a ball-peen hammer and hitting the cap. It took two people, one holding the musket and another one using the hammer. That's interesting.
Well, what happens is back in those days, and everybody was shooting original guns, and when they shot them so many times, they would get what they call wood bound, and the hammer wouldn't work.
Oh wow!
The spring would get hung up in the wood, so that's the only way they could get it to go off, was hit it with a ball-peen hammer.
Well, it was very unique. Yeah,
it worked.
Ingenious. Yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
I know you're the president now, and for the last 75, 80 years, I know it was Hal Strap, and then Carl Boozy Dellinger, and now you. What's it like to be president of the Cherryville?
Well, I think it's an honor, and I really appreciate it. I don't think there need to be any changes. Everything goes well now. It's not like it was years ago. There was no control. Everybody did what they wanted to do. But we have a few rules now, and I feel like that helps. We don't put up with a lot of crap anymore.
Yeah. Well, I know the Cherryville New Year shooters, we try to make it safe for the spectators and the shooters themselves with the insurance and the rules and regulations. And in today's world, there's a lot more red tape to go through now.
Right.
And fortunately, in Cherryville, it's a small community still, and still not that densely populated. So I think that's one reason why it's still able to continue on.
Well, I think you're right. This could never go on anywhere else. I don't think the other cities would put up with it.
Well, it's very loud, and it does disturb animals, but it's only for basically 18 and a half hours is what our group shoots, and we average around 50 stops. Is there any stops that really stick out in your mind that we shoot?
I like the stadium. I think that's one of the best things we ever did, is to start shooting there. As you very well know, we got a lot of people that come and watch us sit in the stadium, and I think that's really neat.
Yeah, Boozy was very instrumental in getting that for safety purposes, because we used to end at the square in Cherryville.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now with the explosive and the black powder, there's such a percussion that we will break windows and things if you're not careful.
See, we broke windows here one time.
Oh, really?
Belts across the street, we broke the top windows out. They broke out. And at one time when we would shoot, we would park our cars and walk down the street, because we would shoot at about every place up here.
I've seen some pictures where he's shooting on the street. So y'all would just get out and just walk and go down to the different merchants.
Yeah. Like Western Auto was down here on the corner. We'd shoot there, and which was on the square, but we would shoot for him. We'd come up the street, we'd shoot for Belks, Roy and Troy Grocery, Acres Grocery out here. But we'd shoot service stations. A lot of service stations back in those days in downtown.
I noticed on the Hal's reels that I had digitized and helped with that, like the Holmesley. There was a Holmesley store. I didn't know about that.
James Holmesley had a store. It's down off of Tryon School Road. It's burned down now. It burned up when he was still in the business there.
And shooting at Carpenters, I guess. You remember shooting at Carpenters in Eaton.
Yeah. She lived out this dirt road, and it'd get rough when it's snowing or raining out through there.
Now, did you ever go out of town with the shooters? I know they went on some excursions out of town. So
usually those I couldn't go. because I was in school or working and I couldn't go.
Now, one thing you do, now you were the official greeter for
Yeah.
a number of years, and you go to every stop. I don't think you miss a stop.
No, I don't.
And you know, that's amazing. You've been going all these years, and you do not miss a stop.
No.
That's amazing. And that's one reason you became the official greeter, is
Yeah.
because you knew Brownie Sisk was going to be at every
Yeah,
stop.
yeah. I hope Kurt will.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Kurt got appointed to be the new greeter.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll be doing it some.
Yeah, well, I feel certain I will.
What do you think about the tradition itself, New Year's shooting? I know some people like it, some people don't like it because of the noise, but what's your opinion on New Year's shooting as far as its place in history?
Well, I think it's, I like it, and I know my whole family does, and I think it should continue. I really do. I think it's an enjoyable time for people like me and the other people, visiting people that you probably only see once a year, that you've known all your life, but you don't see them once a year.
Well, it is like a traveling party, and a lot of people come from all different states. I
Yeah.
mean, one year we had close to 20 states represented.
Yeah, well,
that one time.
Yeah, we had a lot of people here from Pennsylvania, one year, and they do something similar to that up there,
Mm-hmm. Now, there are a few more groups in this area that shoot, but not to our scale. We're the original Cherryville New Year Shooters
right.
Incorporated, and there's a few more smaller groups that shoot. And you were with the group basically before the split and then after the split.
Well, I started with the original group, and then I went a couple of years with the traditionals, and then I came back. I just wasn't happy there.
Gotcha. Understandably. We've got between 400 and 500 members now that we shoot, and this year we'll be shooting on January 2nd, which is on a Monday.
Right.
And to my knowledge, we've never shot on Sunday.
No, never.
It's always been the following Monday. Is that
Never.
correct?
That's correct. Always been on the day after Sunday.
Yeah.
And if you stop and think about it, our chant is really a prayer. If you listen to it.
Yeah, it's part hymn, part prayer. Yeah. It's got a lot of religious tones to it, and it mentions Christ, and so it is part chant, part prayer, poem. It's really, no one really knows how it was put together. There is some history on there from James Newton that wrote the poem "Time Steals Away," so part of the chant is part of that poem. I know we're sitting in the new exhibit. The new exhibit just got completed a few months ago, completely, and we're still adding a few things to it. But the exhibit was in the basement.
Yeah, right.
So we got it out of the basement, and now it's up on the first floor. And it's a wonderful exhibit, and you were very instrumental in helping me get this going as far as the history, the timeline, and that sort of thing.
Well, it needs to be up here. This is something that Cherryville needs to treasure, I think. All these pictures and videos and things.
Well, I think when history, people don't really appreciate history or appreciate what they have till later in life or to when something's gone.
Yeah.
And, Cherryville was founded on the mill villages and New Year's shooting. And New Year's shooting directly parallels the history of Cherryville.
Yeah.
The same family lines, the same bloodlines, and I think it's a tradition that needs to continue. I mean, it started up in north where Philadelphia, shot for George Washington, and the mummers, they called them mummers back then, so it's very rich in tradition, and I understand that there used to be quite a few groups around here. Like every little area had their own shooters group.
Well, I heard that, but I don't know that.
Well, I've heard that from several different people, and I think it is possibly true because back then it was a way to tell your neighbor that you're okay too. And they would get together and have a little party and say the chant, and they had musical instruments, but there were little groups that kind of stayed in their general area.
Well,
because
see,
back then they didn't have cars.
Well, see, that's what I was getting ready to say. They at one
walked.
time they walked.
Yeah.
I think it was over around Indian Creek where they used to do a lot of this.
I know our route consists of about 100 miles.
Yeah.
Around 100 miles, so you could not walk 100 miles.
No, and you could not go with a horse.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I believe that horse would run off.
Yeah, we've had some horses kind of run off up Northbrook area before and get spooked, and animals, you know, but a lot of rich history there, a lot of tradition, you know, scaring away evil spirits. I mean, have you seen any evil spirits or ghosts on New Year's?
No. Well, no, I haven't seen it.
So what are you doing this year to prepare yourself as the new president of the New Year's Shooters? How are you preparing for this year's shoot?
Well, nothing really different. I'm going to load my guns up and my powder and head to Cherryville or Black's Grill.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing really any different, you know.
So really, over the years, the tradition itself hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't. We started basically the same place. Now, at one time, we used to start at Wayside Inn, you know, but that was a long, long time ago.
Yeah. How many shooters do you expect this year?
I would say we're probably going to have 200 shoots all the time, in and out, even though we're going to have probably about 400, I think you said.
Yeah, yeah, they rotate in and out.
Yeah, rotate in and out.
We got to remember it's 18 and a half hours of straight shooting every 20 minutes. So it's hard to do that. It's amazing that you do it. And you know, a lot of the shooters will come out at night and shoot, then they'll go home, then they'll come out and show up at the stadium, and then some of them wait till daylight to come out.
Well, see, that's what happened to me back when I first, well, not when I first started, but after I got into school. I couldn't go in the daytime. I had to go to school. I should go shoot at night and then go to school.
Okay.
And then I'd get with them after I got out of school. But my parents would not let me miss school.
So they had school on New Year's?
Well, that plus I'd have to work sometimes.
Got you. And from Rusty Wise with the Wise News Network, this is a Wise Wednesday, and we're so glad Charles Brownie Sisk was with us today. He brought a lot of insights and wisdom about the Cherryville New Year's Shooters and himself, and we hope the tradition will continue. And so from Rusty Wise, this is a Wise Wednesday. Thank you, guys.
Good morning to you, sir. We wish you a happy new year. Great health, long life, which God may bestow. So long as you stay here below, may He bestow the house you're in. Where you go out and you go in, time but moment steals away. First the hour, then the day. Small the lost days may appear, but yet soon they mount up to a new year. This another year is gone, and it is now no more of our own. But if it brings our promises good, as the year before the flood.